Hello, and welcome to Romance Isn't Dead, episode 43. What we've been up to. I'm Sally.
And I'm Ray.
So we had a little bit of an oopsie, y'all. And I realized it when I sat down after almost a week to listen to our podcast to make sure everything had uploaded okay. And I was like...
It had uploaded.
It uploaded beautifully. But the problem was we had inadvertently uploaded episode 41 more than once because we really liked episode 41. But it turns out we really liked I really liked episode 42 as well. So we're sorry.
Yeah, mea culpa.
We're really sorry, y'all. It's okay, though.
We're human. It uploaded.
It did upload.
It got uploaded.
And it did get uploaded, and it's totally fine. It's totally fine. I think this is going to be our only episode for July, though, because we kind of have a lot to talk about today, and we don't really want to divide it up into two podcasts. But we've spent some time planning out for the fall, the late summer and fall. So hopefully you will enjoy some of the episodes that we have planned upcoming. So yeah, I mean, I think that we've had a pretty good run. I enjoyed June, and I did a lot of reading in June. I did some TV watching in June. I, of course, did some crocheting in June and got my crojo back, as they call it. Crochet Mojo.
Is that what they actually call that?
Yeah, Crochet Mojo.
Well, I have to admit, I kind of did too.
You got your crojo back? Yeah,
well, yeah.
I tell you, it was one of those things where I was, for some reason, this spring, I started project after project, but nothing was sticking. And I was so frustrated because I had, yarn that I really wanted to use and string that I wanted to make into something. And it was like I couldn't get anything finished. I had all these WIPs, works in progress. And so finally, I was at the lake with my family, and I just took several works in progress. And I just forced myself to only work on those. And I finished like 3 in a week, which I thought was pretty cool, to finish 3 works in progress in a week. And so,
but if you had to force yourself, were you forcing yourself back into your crojo, or was it just forcing yourself to finish the projects because they were there?
Well, I think that finishing the projects gave me my crojo back because I proved to myself I could finish something, right? And there's this sense of accomplishment when you finish something. So I finished a dress. I finished a beach robe, basically a bathing suit cover-up. And I finished something else. And I actually started recently and finished an entire Afghan. So I like a throw Afghan. So I feel as though my crojo has done okay. And I'm currently working on a velvet bomber jacket. So it's basically a sweater that I guess that'll look kind of a cardigan that looks kind of like a bomber jacket. But anyway, that's what I'm working on now. But and it's velvet, which is nice, which is really nice yarn to work with. So yeah, I've done a lot of that stuff. And the other thing is I like to crochet when I'm watching television. So there's that.
Yeah, I do as well.
Yeah.
Though I've been noticing my wrists have been giving out quite quickly.
Okay, I will say this. That means that you need to do some stretches. Like there's some exercises and stuff that make it better for your arm or your hands. And I think, I'm not trying to push a manufacturer on you or anything, but I think the Furls website has some of those exercises that you can do. And
yeah, the Furls website also has I also have a problem with the Furls website because I keep on going there and intending to spend money. I
don't want to say that the Furls high-end crochet hooks are my favorite or anything, and I refuse to crochet with much of anything else. But I don't refuse to crochet with anything else. But I do enjoy Furls.
That's the thing. I mean, I will say one of the things is they have added over lockdown over here, they have added a few more
Products,
different types of hook to their range.
Well, one thing that I noticed for me that helps is a hook that actually has a bit more of a handle than those really tiny aluminum hooks, probably kind of like the hooks that you're using. That's not bad. But this hook is shaped a little differently. Like it's actually the opposite of what you've got going on there. But anyway, it's our viewers absolutely cannot see the hooks that we were showing each other. But anyway, our listeners cannot see. So.
Yeah, my hook's a pony hook.
Yeah, no, and that works. That works. It's good. But...
But the only reason I did that is because unfortunately it seems to be quite difficult to get hold of it. It's the inline hooks. Yeah. It's very, very difficult to get hold of them, and I'm a left-handed person, and I need a little bit more end on my hook than you get with the majority of hooks that are available in high street stores.
You might... Well, I'm not sure our listeners really are all that fussed about crochet hooks. And I'll tell you what I think in a minute. Okay, so romance. Yeah. TV, whatnot. I have read a lot of books. And can I go first and say I think I owe Christine Feehan an apology. I mean, I know she listens to our podcast. But... but, no... You know, when I read the first book in the Shadow series, and this has been a bit ago, and I think we did an entire podcast on it with the E.L. James book, Mr.
This was the episode. Did we really need to do this to ourselves?
Right. Well, I went ahead and I read some of the rest of the books in that series, and then I reread that one. And on a reread, I don't think that consent was actually an issue. Now, because I remember saying in the podcast that I wasn't sure that consent was fully there, but on a reread, I'm not sure exactly why I was so fussed about it. Because I just saw it differently. Does that make sense? So
totally.
So maybe I was reading too fast. Maybe I don't know. There's just something, but like the time that people really got, I think, upset about was the hero had picked her up and carried her out of her apartment, and she's mad, and he's not really telling her why, which I kind of understand why I don't understand why he's not more forthcoming, honestly. But at the same time, she needed to leave. And it was important that she leave immediately. Does that make sense? She needed to be out of that situation immediately. So I did get that, but he doesn't like push himself on or anything like that. It's like he gets her to his apartment, and then there's this deliberate attempt. He's got this deliberate attempt to sort of distance himself from her, physically at least. And so, yeah, I feel like on a reread, I feel like I liked that a lot better. So I wanted to say that. Now, I have read several other Feehan books since then, and I picked up the Torpedo Inc. series, which is actually about a motorcycle club. And y'all, if you are not fans of like dark romance, I would say not to go there. Like if you want light, fluffy, don't go there. That's not what Torpedo Inc. is. The heroes of Torpedo Inc. and a couple of the heroes are pretty... They got a lot of demons. And so... And they've earned those demons. That's not fair. Those demons have been kind of pushed on them, and they're better than they probably... you would expect them to be. So just sort of be aware of that if you like light and fluffy... the Torpedo Inc. series is probably not for you. And I didn't think I would like a motorcycle club series because, well, I'm from the States and I have contact with police officers who deal with a lot of motorcycle clubs. And let's just say, I I was concerned because some of the major motorcycle clubs in the States do some very, very illegal things. So I was concerned about that. But I enjoy the Torpedo Inc. series. But again, it's pretty dark. So I could say it's probably not for everyone. Yeah, so that was my sort of spiel on Christine Feehan. What about you, Ray?
Oh, I've read loads, but you talking about the Christine Feehan books reminds me of a conversation we had, and that was about the Sons of Anarchy.
Yes.
There seems to be a correlation between the romance books that are coming out or have come out in the last few years and the TV shows that have relative cult popularity. So
Sure.
You've got your bike. There's a couple of biker gang series I seem to recall having looked online a few times for books to read, and
Go ahead. Sorry.
You've actually read another one?
Yes, I have, and it's they are bikers, but they actually work for the U.S. government in a clandestine capacity. And I want to say it's by Julie Ann Walker. I could look it up. I could look up that series. I haven't read it recently, but I have read that series. So.
Yeah, there seems to be this whole thing. You've got the sort of connection between what's popular on TV translates to what is going to follow up
on the page.
On the page, romance, especially romance novels.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had the whole Buffy thing.
Right.
Use this as a good example. The whole Buffy thing, Buffy, vampires, and everything else. And until that point, there didn't seem to be as many vampiric romances
and then
on
it's
the
all
page.
Over the place, right?
And then it's everywhere. I mean, in fact, I think I read the first vampire books I think I read were, I want to say, Katie McAllister. And they actually have on the back, it's got all the humor of Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
So they even were making that connection. And I find it quite interesting. I'm just wondering what's going to come next, because we were talking about how we have conversations offline quite a lot. And one of the things was, do we really want to see zombies?
Yeah and no. I think my answer to that is no. I think
my
Zombies 1 and 2
thanks.
from the Disney Channel is about as much as I can go in terms of zombie romance. We start getting into Z Nation and Walking Dead, and I'm out. I am so out. Like, peace out.
Oh,
no
definitely.
romance. No romance for me for zombies. So sorry. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I was trying to think of ways that they've used zombies in romance, and I think you're right. Zombies 1 and 2, the Disney Channel movies, and then there was Warm Bodies.
Yeah, which I never saw.
Years ago.
Yeah, I never saw that.
I never saw it either. I'm not a massive fan of zombies in any way or form, though I do like Shaun of the Dead, but that's more because it's a funny film. And I was trying to think of what would come next, because we've already had obviously the fantasy stuff with dragons and warring families and everything from...
We need to do a Thea Harrison book. Speaking of...
Yeah. There you go. So there's a
fantasy.
We've been planning. We are being really organised.
Yeah.
We are planning.
Which totally does not run to form with us. But anyway.
I think the day that we actually plan is you need to expect an asteroid or something.
Don't say that. I have to go drive somewhere today.
I think we've already hit the apocalypse this year.
No, don't say that either. Dadgummit. Don't say that.
I can't help it. It's funny.
Hurricane season just started. I mean, at least the African dust plume didn't include the mummy, which I was sort of expecting. Like, I was waiting for the mummy to show up in the African dust plume. Okay, I was. And it wasn't there, which is so cool. I was very excited.
And there's another thing we haven't discussed, which we were going to discuss a long time ago. The Mummy.
Oh, young Brendan Fraser. Wait, I said that out loud.
Yeah, you did, and you sighed a little bit as well. Is there drool?
There's no drool. Anyway.
But that does raise an interesting question. What do you think would be next? We've done the fantasy with the dragons and everything else, and that's been going on for an eternity, because that's kind of, I mean, that dates back forever.
Well, there's only, 30 or 40 plots in the world for all the stories, so I think we're just going to start over again.
So we're going to go back to vampires then, and werewolves. We've never really left them.
We've never left them, and I think we're going to stay with them, but I think we might see like a resurgence of some fae type things. Because the last fae books I read were like honest, and oh my gosh, we have not talked about her, Laurel K. Hamilton. And I read her fae books with Mary Gentry. I read most of those. I think I probably missed the last couple, but I read most of those. And I wound up reading them not really for the romance.
I wonder what you were reading them for.
But even like the heat in them wasn't like. I think I really wanted to know how it was going to end. You know what I mean?
See, I started reading the other Laurel K. I went through the
Anita Blake series.
Yes. Well, there is a funny story with that. I went to the States for a holiday, and it was before Amazon was. In fact, it was before Amazon, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the States to stay with a friend, and I was there for a month, and I went to a stack of bookstores. I actually had to get rid of some of my clothes to take books on the plane home, because I bought bags and bags of books. I went into every single bookstore, and because books, it was before the days of Amazon, the bookstores over here were incredibly limited in the books that they had in stock. Mm-hmm. Romance, especially fantasy romance and supernatural romance, were incredibly rare and incredibly difficult to find on the high street. And I live in a relatively small town. We don't have very much. We have a Waterstones, which we've only had for about 5 years. Before that, we had Smiths, and that was it. So getting hold of these books was nigh on impossible. And hence, I ended up getting rid of clothes to bring home books.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather sacrifice suitcase space. It's got kind of like, well, I'll buy all these books and I'll just replace the clothes when I get home. Because I didn't want... But I bought most of the Anita Blakes that were out at that point. Yeah, I know. Most of the Anita Blakes that were out at that point, I bought. And I think I read about 6 of them before I got really disillusioned.
Mm-hmm.
Because there didn't seem to be any substance to them. And I was disappointed.
I think I read one Anita Blake. But, if I want to look up a Hunter series, I'm more likely to look at Nalini Singh with her Archangel series. Because the primary heroine is a hunter. And it's a different... I've only read one Anita Blake, and it's been probably 20 years, so I don't really remember all that well. But I think that might be something. We might see a few more angels. Like, maybe we'll be looking at celestial beings instead of things of this earth.
Right. Yeah, YA's already done that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Lauren Kate with her Fallen series.
And I haven't read J.R. Ward's version, but J.R. Ward has some angels, and she has angels, fallen angels. So I'm not sure what those look like quite yet. I know that my library actually has some of those, but I'm not sure what all those look like quite yet. So anyway, it might be worth... it might be something that might be a direction in which some people choose to go. But I don't know. That's a
So
good
it would be
question.
really interesting to find out where our listeners think that this is going to go, though.
Yeah, it would be.
So if you've got any ideas on what you think the next big thing in romance is going to be, whether it's angels, demons, hunters,
Shapeshifters.
yeah, shapeshifters, a return to the original, or is it going to be something much darker, which we will be covering in a later episode anyway?
Yeah.
Please do let us know, because it's really interesting to find out where people think romance, that side of romance, is going to head in the future. Because as we've already seen, we've had a massive surge in the number of people who are writing about biker gangs.
Yes. Biker gangs.
As I said,
Who
I completely blame Sons of Anarchy for that.
Well, and the other thing is they all have the biker gangs all do have the torpedo ink. It's not, she doesn't make it an emphasis, but they all do have some supernatural powers. All of them do.
Chris, this is Feehan though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And she likes her supernatural angle to everything.
Oh yeah, of course. Because Feehan. And that's fine. If you like Feehan, then you'll like this. But you do need to know that this is actually dark. Like, there are going to be mentions of things that I think would bother some of our readers quite a bit. So, or listeners, quite a bit. So, if it was fanfic, it would be tagged with discussions of non-con and all that. Yeah. It would absolutely be tagged if this was on AO3 or fanfic.net. People would riot. I can't believe you didn't tag this. I mean,
why didn't you tag them?
I received a request from a Harry Potter fan group to write a Harry Hermione romance or story. It's been a year.
This for last July?
Yeah, last July. One of the bits of feedback I got was that you didn't tag Hermione. Literally, I had Draco's name in it. That's it. That's all. I mentioned his name in a list, and this person dinged me for not having Hermione. I was like, he didn't even, what? What? And I was like, okay, sure, Jan. I'm just not gonna get him. I mean, I don't think I even responded to that because I was like, his name was in a list.
I was going to say, we have to say we're in no drama. We're a no drama pair. We've done our very, very best to remove ourselves from any kind of fandom drama that exists. And we've been in I've been in fandom now for, oh good Lord. I've been in fandom since 1997.
My fandom entry was much, much later, but and I am in what some people find a controversial wing of the Star Wars fandom.
Oh yeah,
but I have not involved myself terribly much in that controversy. I just know that some people are wrong and I'm right, and that's the end of that. I'm just done. I'm just so done with so much of that. But yeah, they're wrong, and that's how I'm going with them. They're just wrong. And I would include, my podcast partners on my other podcast in that. They're just wrong, and that's fine, and I've told them so.
That's the thing. I mean, I can't argue on this because it's not my fandom.
No, and it's... Wow.
I really do prefer my fandom without the drama. I was involved.
Sure.
I was on the outskirts of drama when I was in the Harry Potter fandom first time round, and I never want to re-enter that stage again ever.
I was involved in some Harry Potter drama too, and I just not interested in the drama anymore.
It's exhausting, which is why we are very, very upfront and honest on the fact that these are our opinions completely and utterly. We aren't going to force them on anybody. And we often have differing opinions on things like Star Wars. Yeah, I don't watch it, and Sally loves it. And
you know what the irony is? The last movie, Monstrosity.
Yeah.
Well, that tells you everything I you need to know what I think of that movie. I'm not sure I can count myself as a Star Wars fan anymore. They've hurt me that much. J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio did such a bad job with a movie that was literally a putt, and they messed it up. It actually damaged a lifelong love of Star Wars.
I was going to say, we do actually have an entire episode on this particular
It damaged a lifelong love of Star Wars. It actually hurts me. And, they can fix it. But the question is, do they want to? Do they want to fix it? But, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But anyway, so what have you been reading?
Me, I've been reading. I've done a few rereads. Okay. I have. I'm one of these people who has a few books on a list, and every single year, no joke, I go through and I tick them off as reread. And I've just started. It's that time of year again. So as well as reading the new stuff that I've been looking at, I've also picked up old favourites just as a little bit of a comfort boost, because I think we can all admit and all acknowledge that right now we need a little bit of comfort, and
we need comfort, and we need happy
and familiarity,
because there's a certain level of, this is good, I know how it's going to end at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also that comfort that, especially with the books that I reread, I know how they end. But not only do I know how they end, I know that they end relatively happily. They end on a nice closing with positive future. And that is what I need right now. And I'm kind of, I would say I'm going that way with my movies, but I'm sort of not. I've been watching a lot of action movies recently. And I have no idea why. I just
literally blow them up action movies?
I watched Skyscraper the other day.
Huh. I still haven't seen that one.
Well, it's in a weird way. I talk with my mum every Sunday, and I was every Saturday, and I was telling her that I'd watched Skyscraper, and I said it's kind of like it's a building that's on fire, and this guy goes into rescue. And she said, it's like the Towering Inferno. And I said, well, no, actually, it's more like a sort of cheapy version, though it probably cost about 10,000 times more, of Die Hard.
When you said the building is on fire, I immediately thought Die Hard. I did. I thought Die Hard.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
I immediately, when I watched it, my first thought was, but I have to admit, I like Dwayne Johnson.
I'm telling you, he's bull. That is who.
Yeah,
that is
I agree
who
with you.
Shuri Sinclair is using as her head or face cannon for one of her characters in her Sons of the Survivalist series.
I agree 100%. And I sold Mum on the film by saying it's kind of like Die Hard. It's not as good. I am one of the people that says Die Hard's a Christmas film, and nobody's going to change my mind on that. It did come out in July, but that's not the point. It's a Christmas film. It took place at Christmas, and there's no argument. Yeah, there is no argument. You want to fight me on it? I'm not a fighter. You can stay in your lane, but it is a Christmas film, and this one isn't. But at the same time, it was, for me, I watched it and it was like, I can see the Die Hard in this.
Well, I mean, people are influenced. Filmmakers are influenced, so it makes sense.
And you wouldn't want to be influenced by one of the best action movies ever. I also watched 2 of the John Wicks because I watched the first one and the third one because the second one is not available on any streaming service right now, which is weird. What else did I watch? Rush Hour. Oh my god, I've been watching so much rubbish, it's scary. But I've just been watching action movies because in a way you always know that they're going to end up, the good guy is always going to win.
Yeah, I mean, people are influenced. Filmmakers are influenced, so it makes sense. It makes sense.
And I think that's what I needed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I haven't been watching romance. I'm trying to think what TV I've watched. Not much. I started watching Warrior Nun.
I did too. I think I've gotten like episode 7.
I'm on episode 2.
Oh, I'm a bit ahead.
Just a bit.
So I've started watching Warrior Nun, and I kind of like Warrior Nun. I mean, I don't know that I'm gonna like knock you down to finish it, but I did like Warrior Nun. The premise I think is interesting, and maybe that is the way we're going, right? Because the idea of Warrior Nun, not to put a bunch of spoilers out there, but the idea is that there is an angel's halo, and they introduced this in the very first episode. So this is this is not a huge spoiler. This is an angel's halo, and it is infused in the back of a nun, like Catholic nun, and she can then see demons and help direct her fellow nuns, her warrior nuns who train to fight to protect people in the church from these demons from hell, right? And she can see them because she has the power of this halo in her back. And so that's all introduced, I would say, in the first episode, right?
It is indeed.
So yeah. I don't feel like that's a big spoiler, but you know what? I'm trying to figure out, how old is she? How old do you think she is?
I don't think she's very old. I reckon she's maybe 18, 19.
Okay, because there is a discussion in a later one that she's aging out of the system. And so I kind of think that I was thinking for whatever reason, I thought she was 14 at first, and I was like, whoa, this is really mature for a 14-year-old, right?
Yeah, you see, it is. It's not based in the US. It's in
Spain,
Europe somewhere.
Spain.
Yeah, it's in Spain, where everything is younger anyway.
But is it Spain or Portugal? Anyway, I think it's Spain. And then, but as I watched it, I started thinking, yeah, she's older, and I'm thinking she's 17, 18, which is a little less. It feels right. 17, 18 feels about right. So, yeah, it is.
But at the same time, it doesn't feel like a teen drama.
No, definitely not a teen drama. I mean, there is some teen angst going on, but not a teen drama. No, this is bigger than that. So, yeah. Have you read anything? I did read the Ward books that I have mentioned on the podcast before. I read the Bourbon Kings trilogy, and it is Bourbon Kings, Angel's Share, and Devil's Cut, and those are all bourbon terms. Did you know this? Angel's Share and Devil's Cut.
The second one I knew, the third one I didn't. Okay.
So the Angel's Share, if you don't know, is the share that evaporates off of these casks, and that goes to the angels, right? So that's their share. But the Devil's Cut is the bourbon that kind of seeps into the actual barrels, and then if you compress it enough, you get that really highly condensed, high concentration alcohol out of the actual cask itself. And so yeah, that's the Devil's Cut, and so they've actually started marketing that. But anyway, those are all bourbon terms. And this is set in Kentucky with with a family that has owned, and this is important, the mom is the heir to the fortune, right? And she marries a fellow by the name of William Baldwin, and they have several children, and the dad, William Baldwin, is, you know what, I'm going to use some foul language. He's a righteous bastard. He's awful.
Oh, nice.
And just terrible, all around terrible person. And so Tulane is their younger son. There are 3 sons, Edward, Max, Tulane, And the daughter is Jenny. She's the youngest. And
so why did they named 3 of their children with normal, very, very upstanding, find them anywhere names, and the third one Tulane?
Well, okay, this is the function of the South. And they all have fancy names in terms, and so what you're hearing are nicknames. Well, Tulane is actually called Lane most of the time. His middle name is Tulane. I don't even remember his first name. But like Edward is something Edward blah blah Baldwin, right? And Max is I think probably Maximilian something. And so, but people in the South, particularly families like that, would place a high premium on using family names and whatnot. And Mama's maiden name becomes a first name or something like that. So, you know, I know a kid in my hometown who's named Edwards. Not Edward, but Edwards. I'm pretty sure they call him Ward, but you know.
Yeah.
But his name is Edwards, because that's Mama's maiden name, I think. So it's not a big deal. But one of the things that J.R. Ward does is she looks at the American South, particularly this whole idea of this upper crust out of Kentucky, and she sort of pokes fun at them. Like, she kind of laughs, and I think it's something that only someone like J.R. Ward could do, right? She's a transplant from the North, lives in Kentucky. She truly loves it. You can tell she truly loves Kentucky. But she also sees the flaws, and she sees the problems that the South often has. And so, so she really does sort of focus in on that. And I tell you, I enjoyed the books. What sort of surprised me was that the course of these 3 books probably took place over the course of a month, if that. I mean, this stuff is just happening like that. Like, it
That's
goes
quick.
from the Derby to, it's super quick. Now, it's the other thing that you really need to know. If you are going to sit down to read these books, there is straight up non-consensual sex in this book, or in this series. And it's a side character, but an important side character. And there's a purpose for it. There is a purpose for it. So it's not gratuitous.
Purpose for it.
Well, it's not gratuitous. It was showing a marital abuse.
Oh, right. So I'm guessing it's his mom and dad.
No. No. His mom, which you find out almost immediately, his birth mother, basically spends her days drugged up on Vicodin or whatever, and she spends her entire day high as kite. She wanders around the grounds at night sometimes, and that becomes important, but no, it's not her. There are, of course, mentions of infidelity. Yeah, so there are some things in this book that, like, I'm glad I read them, because I would be able to sort of throw out a warning, right, to someone who might be thinking of reading them. By the way, you might run across this and it might upset you. And it's not a trigger for me, but I could see where it would be kind of triggering for other people, if that makes sense. So
yeah, totally.
That's why I'm putting that warning out there. So it may not be for you, but those books were actually pretty good. Now, one of the problems for me is it kind of end with the Deus Ex Machina, but that's okay too. In the end, I was actually all right with that, because she does set it up well so that it doesn't just kind of come out of the blue entirely, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is something that has been mentioned numerous times throughout the course of a couple books, and so when it does come up, it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I can buy that, you know. So, yeah, I would say that. And I'm glad I read them, because the only thing I'd read by Ward before was the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, and I hadn't read all of that. I had read the early books.
There seem to be, it feels like there are hundreds of them.
it really has. It's not unlike Feehan's Dark series. It's like, oh, Feehan's Dark series. These people, these Carpathians are super rare, and then all of a sudden we've got hundreds, and it's like, how are they rare exactly?
Yeah, why are there 50
They don't
novels?
feel that rare. They really don't feel that rare. But, I mean, I guess in the context of 7.7 billion people worldwide, a few hundred is actually quite rare, but it doesn't feel so rare. And the things that made some of them super powerful don't seem all that big of a deal the more people we meet in Feehan's series, right?
Because one day you've got, and they're the most powerful because they can do this and this.
Yeah.
They're the most powerful, and then 7 books later, most powerful because they can do this. It's like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
What happened to that guy?
Yeah. Yeah. Like Lucian and Gabriel were like legendary warriors, and they're really super old and so on and so forth. But nope, turns out there are even older ones who didn't go to ground. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's fine. It's suspension of disbelief, sort of but
yeah. But you say that, it reminds me, one of the things I have started rewatching is the Highlander TV series.
Oh, have you?
Yes.
Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. That one?
Not Duncan, Connor.
Connor? Sorry, it's been a long time.
Is it Duncan or Connor? I can never remember. It is Duncan. Connor was the movie. Duncan was the series. I'm about 6 or 7 episodes in. You see, my favourite character was never him. My favourite character was Mythos.
Okay, I gotta ask this question. How do they spell MacLeod?
It's Macleod.
Okay, cool. That's how Mcleod is how I know most people who are MacLeods, but a lot of people think that you should spell it like Mccloud. And I'm like, no, it's not an actual cloud.
It's EOD.
Yeah. Yeah. Because actually a friend of mine was like, oh, well, it's not spelled MacLeod like you think it would be spelled MacLeod. It's spelled it. And I was like, no, that's how you're supposed to spell MacLeod. And he was like, what? I was like, sorry, love. You're wrong. You missed a step. I grew up with a lot of MacLeods, and they spell it Leod.
But that to me is, when we were talking about the most powerful and everything else, that is what it reminds me of. Because all of a sudden, all of these immortals are coming out of the woodwork.
But there will be only one.
Yeah, for 6 seasons.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. We're at my house. We're kind of doing a rewatch of Supernatural, which isn't romance at all. But Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki. That's all I'm saying.
Do you know? I think I started to rewatch that because it's currently over here on Amazon, as most things seem to be, and I never was able to get into it. I'd rather do a rewatch of Buffy or Roswell.
Interesting.
The original Roswell, not the remake.
Okay. Interesting. For the record, I just heard a thump, 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 and I'm pretty sure that one of my dogs is actually underneath my home office. My home office is outside, and
how?
and well, it's not set directly on the ground. It's leveled and it's off the ground. So the dogs like to go under there it's cool, right?
Yeah.
And they're inside outside, but they're outside right at the moment. And I think one of them is sitting underneath my office, and they were scratching behind their ear or something, and I heard thump, 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 thump. It's like,
for the record, her home office is beautiful.
It's a she shed, basically.
Yeah. It's done up like a very glamorous she shed.
It's not a glamorous she shed. Although my husband was an absolute trooper and basically finished it off like you would expect to have a house finished off. So, which was super, super sweet of him. He spent a lot of time and hours out here doing that, and I really appreciate it. I do have the air conditioner turned off. Otherwise, there would be a constant hum. But anyway.
This is a she shed with air conditioning. And electricity and Wi-Fi and a day bed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my Cricut and my sewing machine.
Yeah.
And my yarn. There's so much yarn. I love it. I want to buy more. She has a problem.
Anyway,
I have a
problem. Let's go back to books.
Okay, fine.
We have gone so far off course, but that's part of the course when we are doing an episode. What have we been up to? Rather than this is what I have been reading.
Yes.
I have read quite a lot, some of which we are going to be talking about in a later episode, so I won't even touch on it. But back in episode 1 at 41. For episode 1, good grief, I'm going back a long way. Back in episode 41, we read the first in the Wallflowers series by Lisa Kleypas.
Yes.
Neither of us were massively keen on it. However, I wanted to read more about the other characters.
Okay, so wait. Most important question first.
Yeah.
Do the titles make sense?
No.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
In fact, I was writing notes about the titles of these books, and my biggest bugbear about the titles of these books is they feel like they were written or created using a random title generator.
Wait, those exist?
They really do. Huh?
Those exist.
They do exist. Yeah, they do. It's kind of like the random character generator, because the titles of these books are... Okay, that's weird. Oh, it's because I'm on I was looking at something else completely. But the titles of these books just make no sense. They are Secrets of a Summer Night, which we talked about Annabelle's story. Neither of us were massively keen on Annabelle. I mean, she proves herself in the end, but...
That's on page 364 of 369 pages.
As I said, she proves herself in the end. But I mean, I was thinking about it, and she did have some relatively honourable motivations behind some of her actions.
Yes, she's trying to protect her family, so you have to give her props
especially
for that.
Her mother.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
So you do have to give her a few props and say, well, she did have some honourable motivations. However, for the most part, she was very, very shallow and self-centered, and no, not a very nice character. Then the second book is called It Happened One Autumn. And it reads like the title reads like a fanfic.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, those first time. This is no offense to a fanfic author.
We love fanfic.
Yeah,
we love fanfic.
We've all written our first one with a really lame title. I mean, I think one of the titles for one of my fanfics was A Night Spent in an Aladdin-themed hotel room on Route 285 South. That was the title for one of my fanfics. I mean, seriously. So I cannot comment. It was a Roswell fanfic. But at the same time, It Happened One Autumn. What happened one autumn?
That's a lot of that's a big season. It's
a big season. I don't think the book actually takes place in autumn, from what I can recall. And this I know.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It is because it's all during the season.
Mm-hmm.
And the season is spring through summer.
Okay. All right.
So this is and it's so it is, I don't know, I can't even explain it. The story is good. We've already met all the characters, and there's a kidnapping. So there is a hint of non-con involved in there. Just a hint. But it's not as shallow as book one. However, the title, no. The third one is called Devil in Winter.
Okay.
I'm seeing you. Yeah. It's like, what? So, Evie, who is my favourite character out of all of the Wallflowers, proposes marriage to the guy who, it happened one autumn, kidnapped, so they're the non-con, the heroine of book 2.
She wants to marry the guy who kidnapped her friend?
Yeah. There is motivation behind it. She's the one who is constantly being treated like rubbish by her family, and she sees marrying somebody else who is desperate for finance because her family is quite wealthy as an escape before her aunt and uncle can marry her off to her disgusting cousin.
Does he accept?
He does it. Well, yes, obviously. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a book.
But he's actually the hero of the book. Okay. All right.
Yeah, he's the hero of the book.
So what's the spring title?
Scandal in Spring.
Go!
I have to admit that I was... Now, scandal, when you think about a scandal, you think of something that everybody knows about. Do you not?
Well, it's not a scandal if you keep it quiet and, it doesn't come out.
There is no scandal.
No?
It may well have happened in spring. Not sure. But there is no scandal.
Okay, cool. So if we get past the titles that don't make any sense for the actual books, tell me if they're good.
I liked Scandal in Spring. Hated the title with a passion. But I liked Scandal in Spring because Daisy is quite a likable character. She's very, very, she seems very flighty, but she's not.
Okay.
Her parents dismiss her as being relatively useless.
Yes.
And they decide to marry her off to someone who works who actually works for their father, who works for the parents in the States in their business, because obviously they are he's a soap magnate from the States, and he brought his 2 daughters to the UK to marry titles. His oldest daughter marries the title, marries very, very well, but his younger daughter has found no prospects, and time has moved on, and she is now in her mid-20s, and she has shown no signs of finding anybody.
Even though she's connected to an earl? Is it an earl?
Yeah.
That's a heck of a connection.
It is a heck of a connection. However, she's American, and she's the younger daughter. Okay. And she also has 3 older brothers. But so her father writes her off as useless and basically says, right, if you haven't found somebody to marry within the next 3 months, I'm going to marry you off to basically his assistant in the soap business. And he even flies him over to the UK.
And by flies, you mean he puts him on a boat?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry.
It's my brain. I'm reading a modern book right now, so he flies him over, angel, eagle, whatever. He gets him over to the UK, and it was clear that he'd already planned to do this because he arrives very, very soon after he's given her an ultimatum. Yeah.
Like he sends the letter and then sends the dude on the next boat.
Pretty much.
Okay.
However, there is a secret. Well, she ends up finding the guy that her father is telling her she's going to marry very attractive. And they start having a fling. And in Regency times, that would have been a big no-no when you're unmarried and...
Yes, of course.
So they start having
an affair,
a very, very physical affair. And he's unable to resist her because he's been in love with her forever. And she finds she doesn't know what it is, but she finds him incredibly attractive and can't resist him either. So chemistry clearly zinging off all over the place. However, it turns out that he's not who he says he is, and the police arrest him. And as with the one thing that I find very, very frustrating in every single one of these novels, in every single one of these books in this series, is the twist happens so close to the end of the book that you've got 10, maybe 20 pages for resolution and a happy ending. So he's obviously had several of those throughout the book anyway. But it frustrated me that every single book every book is formulaic in its own way. We've had this conversation several times, that there is a formula to every single book. However, these all follow exactly the same formula. And it's almost like there's a template for them.
I wonder if this is a function of just the Wallflower series, or if this is how Kleypas just writes.
Apparently, the Wallflower series has actually got
is it a departure for her, or is it a, you know?
No, there's another. Apparently, there is another series. I want to say it's called The Hathaways or something, that's actually connected to this in some way. And these aren't the only 4 books in the series either, because they're before the Wallflower series. There's a 0.5, which is the tale of one of the Earl's sisters who ran off with a stable boy.
Right.
Which is called Again the Magic. I just despair of these titles. And then there is a book that comes after the 4 books with Daisy's brother coming from the US.
To do what?
To meet. He figures that as his sisters have met their partners in the UK, maybe he will too.
Except Daisy met her father's assistant?
Yeah, but they're staying in the UK. I think for me the problem lies with, well, there are several problems with these books. The biggest problem is the titles. Because every time I think of them, I can't take them seriously because of the titles. Because they read like they have been picked out of a hat or a random generator. Okay.
I need a title with summer in it. I need a title with autumn in it. I need a title with what? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But for no reason.
Could have done better.
I don't understand. These titles don't tie in with the Wallflowers.
And to me, that is a cardinal sin. Like, and you know how I am about titles. I get really caught up in a title. I get really caught up in names. I get caught up in some of the, like, for me, the devil's in the details. Yeah. And I really have a problem. I think for me, I would have some trouble with that as well. I did want to make a note. I've actually reread some Laura Lee books. And I don't even know if you know who that is, but she's written...
No.
She writes... They're kind of dark, too. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it.
You like your dark books.
But on a heat scale, I'll be honest with you, on a heat scale, 10.
You see, that's the thing. The Scandal in Summer was probably the book with the most amount of heat in it. Mm-hmm. It started because if you we commented, one of the things that we noted about Secrets of a Summer Night was the fact that everything that happened didn't start happening until later on in the book. Mm-hmm. It's almost as though our message traveled back in time, because the further on in the series you get, the more scenes happen earlier in the book. And by the 4th book, I think the first sex scene happened on like page 60.
What? That's quick.
As I said, it really was a case of, it was as though we travelled back in time with our message of, it happened too late in the first book. We waited so long for this supposedly steamy book, because that's what I looked for, to have anything in it. And then the fourth book, it was like, whoa.
Hi, my name is Let's Go Have Sex. Okay, cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
It was surprising.
Wow. Wow. Okay, cool. Very cool. All right. Well, I think we probably need to wrap it up here for today. Where can people find you, Miss Ray?
People can find me at All About Ray on Twitter, allaboutrae.wordpress.com, though that hasn't been updated since at some point. Yeah, and
don't stress yourself.
At ISN Romance on Twitter, which is updated a little bit more regularly than, well, many things. That's so bad. But basically we post on there to let you know when the new episodes are coming out, and also to remind you that we have got a back catalogue of 42 episodes. Wow. All romance all the time. So you've got plenty of hours to listen to.
Yes, you do. Take up a day and a half of your time. All right, if you need to find me, I am also on Twitter and Instagram, and you will find me as Palmetto Blue. And how would you like to sign out, Ray?
I would like to sign out by, well, saying please follow us. Please like our comments. Make some comments. We do ask questions every week. Oh God, that sounds so desperate. And also keep on searching for your happily ever after.
To be fair, let me say this. Sometimes it does feel like we're talking into the void. And that's okay, because I think we have good conversations. But sometimes it feels like we're talking into the void if people don't talk back. So, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd be totally interested to hear what some people what they've been reading, and what they would like to, and also what's next in the supernatural genre of romance. What's next?
Or not even the supernatural genre, just the romance genre.
Sure.
Because things are think about it, things are changing.
True.
I mean, even the RWA has changed.
Yes, it has. Okay, so I'm going to sign out and say that romance isn't dead. It's alive and well on your bookshelf. Bye.
Bye.